Hello and welcome to this episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. Today's guest is Khalique Rogers, the new Executive Director for Catalyst Systems for Change, and Jeff Aguy, the new Board Chair. This is going to be a good episode where we talk about housing instability, where we talk about economic development, and we talk about cross-sector collaborations with the legislator, no less. This is going to be a wonderful episode you won't want to miss. Khalique Rogers and Jeff Aguy, welcome to Community Connections.
We're happy to be here. Thank you for having us on.
Jeff, thank you for coming back. You are here as the board chair for Catalyst for Systems Change. And Khalique Rogers, you are here as the new executive director.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. How excited are you for taking the helm over this organization?
I am beyond excited. This has been, like I said, it was slow cooked. You know, we built this with precision because this is something I've been working on since I was in high school, honestly. I had a vision of, you know, there's a cliche, be the change you want to see. Mm-hmm. But this is something that I've been working on the journey itself has taught me so much, you know, and we'll get more into that, but come Monday, it's been a long time coming, trust me.
The upcoming launch is taking place August 11th at 12:30 at St. Paul College. Mm-hmm. How exciting do you guys feel about this initiative being launched statewide for everybody to really start to recognize and join with you in the work you guys are set out to do?
Super excited. You know, with Khalique's leadership, Catalyst for Systems Change has always been cross-sector. And so we've enjoyed the support of community, of young people who are really doing the work. And so this is an opportunity for all of our partners to come together. Although this is the launch, we've been working together for about a year and a half now. And so we're just really excited for people to meet each other, to get to know each other, and to see all the work that's being done. I think sometimes, you know, especially in these moments, in these dark moments, you want to see the work because it feels so dark with all the things that are happening, not just in our state, but across the country. So we're really excited for this moment of hope. I'm so excited for Khalique. Oftentimes you find executive directors who either they have lived experience or they have kind of like this academic experience. And what I'm really excited for Khalique's leadership is he has both the lived experience and the policy experience and has delivered for young people across the state before. So we're super excited for everybody to come. I'm excited for everyone to, you know, see Khalique's leadership, what we've as a board have witnessed this whole time.
Mm-hmm. Now, Khalique, for people that are unfamiliar with the work of CSC, as you all so lovingly call it, can you share with them what you all are doing and offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work on the holistic needs of youth and families, predominantly the youth, though. You know, as you know, they go out into the world having dreams and aspirations. What we do is create the partnerships, and we also examine the ecosystem of their development. So we work on the holistic needs, which are housing, workforce, and education. So by asking them what they're passionate about and basing things off their lived experiences, like how do we get them from thinking of themselves as, or thinking in can't, into possibilities? And how we do that is by creating strategic partnerships, whether that's, you know, business, whether that's nonprofits, whether that's community, so they can actualize their dreams, but through co-design. So the co-design comes from youth working with adults. So it's intergenerational, it's true community building. I know it sounds wild, right?
I think it is something that is very necessary, but also is effective. So many kids get out of school, and young adults, if we're talking about college as well, and what is the one thing people say that they need? You need experience. And it's like, how do I gain experience if I've never worked anywhere and if there's no one coming alongside of me, kind of showing me the ropes or even guiding me on what I should be doing or building next?
Absolutely.
So I think this is something that's really laying a lot of groundwork for people to be able to build bridges, so to speak, and look towards their own futures and empowering their communities is very exciting. Jeff, as board chair, what are you the most excited about seeing with CSC launching?
You know, Joe, Nathan, and Khalique have been doing the work, the wonderful work. I'd say that Khalique has been doing the work since I met him. And what I'm most excited for as board chair, along with our board, is kind of having the fiduciary aspects in place, the structure in place. We're now a 501c3 nonprofit, officially the organizational structure to fuel our executive director's vision and to fuel the passion of these young folk. Even the launch happening at St. Paul College, a partner that's been there so much. Earlier, you talked about how we need experience, right? And one of the things that I'm most proud of as we relate to these young people is that they've gotten legislation passed. They've gotten legislation passed during divided government. And very few adults can say that. And so when you're coming into whatever career that you want to have and that you've made a difference, I think that's tremendous. So as board chair, I'm really excited to empower the vision of our executive director along with the board, making sure that everything is structurally what it needs to be, and it is. And so if folks want to support and see impact at scale, they can trust the organizational structure of the organization. So that's what I'm most excited about, is kind of like introducing that trust to our ecosystem, that not only are they believing in Khalique's vision, but they can trust in the infrastructure of everything that's behind it. So I'm really excited for that.
Khalique, what led you to wanting to lend yourself and your background to this kind of specific work?
Yeah, I mean, once again, it's rooted in lived experience. For me, especially growing up in Chicago, and just those conditions, lack of job opportunities, education, marginalization of Black communities. My parents wanted to take a leap of faith, and they heard of the land of 10,000 lakes. And some people call it the land of 10,000 nonprofits. Like there's all these supportive services, which that were there, well intended. But when we got here, we recognized that support was only for single parents, single women, not a family that had a father present. And those experiences for me, I didn't forget them. Those were things that stuck with me. That having housing instability was something that I also seen as I grew up was common amongst people of color, especially like me living in the Twin Cities. So as a young person, I just seen the struggle and experienced the struggle, and seen my parents, go through it not having, their basic needs met or access to them, And for me, I just vowed at a young age, like, you know what, I'm never gonna be on a Section 8, because I've seen how it prevented me from being my full self. Like, oh, if you get a job, then now you're gonna have to pay rent. You're gonna have to contribute in these different ways. And I'm like, isn't this supposed to help us scale out of these things? So I wanted to re-examine the ecosystem and examine these systems as a whole. And briefly, when I got to high school, I took PSEO because I had recognized in my school experience that the expectation of Black men were really low, Black boys at that. And I was like, nah, those fears are yours, not mine. I know I can be excellent. So I went for PSEO, took PSEO is post-secondary enrollment options for college courses for young people, especially young people, having access to free college courses is a big thing. It changes it to a vision of possibilities for them, like it did for me. That's where I met. At the time, it was just like a random older man named Joe Nathan who came to visit me personally, and he said, you're the only Black male student to take PSEO here. And I was like, yeah, and they really wasn't as supportive as I thought they'd be. But I did it anyway, passed my classes, got all A's, and it was like the Morpheus moment. Like I was like Neo in the Matrix. And he was like, well, you want to see how far the rabbit hole goes? You can go and tell other young people about this opportunity. They'll believe you and trust you a lot more than they'll listen to me. And from then on, it changed my whole world. I didn't recognize he created the policy for post-secondary enrollment options. So I was meeting a man that thought in systems and systems change. And I had a lot of big, ambitious ideas from my lived experiences, such as homelessness and housing instability and so on. And one day he asked me, what's something that you want to work on from your lived experience? And I said, I want to address youth homelessness. And that's what started this whole path. This was when I was 17, I was 13 years old. 13 years ago, yeah.
I don't think we acknowledge how many people how many youth are actually navigating homelessness?
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, it doesn't look, I think, how we expect it to look. Whether it's people on the side of the road asking for money or panhandling or whatever it may be, you don't realize someone who's maybe in a park or in a library all day, or the person maybe serving you in a restaurant has nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to think about being now in the land of 13,000 lakes and predominantly cold most of the year,
Yeah.
how serious of an issue this really is for us, and how it starts to really change the landscape of our communities over time. Because if you think, I always like the analogy of thinking 4 years from whatever date you see someone experiencing a hardship, right?
Wow.
4 years. That's supposed to be someone matriculating from high school, college, whatever it may be. And if they're still in that same place and they're not advancing,
Mm-hmm.
what does that have our communities looking like?
Yeah.
What does it have our educational landscapes looking like?
Mm-hmm.
There's a deficit there, and we have to figure out some way to start to close that margin. And so I think it's very important that Catalyst for Systems Change is focusing on housing development, or excuse me, economic development, housing resources, and bridging the gaps, teaching students across the state of Minnesota things like construction skills, helping them start to learn about the opioid crisis that's going on right here. Can you talk a little bit about some of that work that you've done? Because I don't think we really start to gather the scope once again on what opioids are doing to our youth right here in our own backyard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so, you know, when I think about how do we address problems, right? You know, one thing I know is that you should always ask the people who are at the heart of the issue, people that are experiencing it. Because oftentimes people make decisions from a balcony point of view. So this is what we can see, or this is what we've always done to address a problem. But there's, innovation in those who are experiencing the problem, because they know what's missing. Because if you ask them, well, what is missing? Like, well, if I had this, then I would be able to do that. But oftentimes we come to community and we don't start with, okay, what is the vision collectively? It tends to start with, okay, here are the objectives we have for you. This is what we have for you to choose from. It's like, well, you're starting too early. You're putting the cart before the horse. If they're not a part of the visioning, then they don't have ownership of what you're creating. There's no, okay, let me help contribute to this problem by designing a solution, co-designing. So what we start with at CSE is we bring the young people into the design space and visioning space, so that it's not my idea, it's theirs. And we are the facilitators to help them have access to practitioners and professionals and city officials who have power and resources and a network to do something about it. But that common denominator that is typically missing is the person with the lived experience. So with the opioid crisis, we have an event, really a program called the Changemakers Program, where we bring youth from urban, rural, and suburban Minnesota to the Minnesota House Chamber. We do it every fall. And we ask them what their priorities are. We don't tell them their priorities, we ask them what theirs are. And their number one priority this past November was opioid education, recognition, and training, based off of the really national epidemic happening with opioids, poisoning, and overdose. Because some people don't even recognize that they are taking these drugs. And we see the outcome is fatalities, especially amongst our youth. So through that, we did more than convene them, because typically where it stops, you ask them questions, okay, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
We'll follow up, and maybe a report goes out like, hey, young people said this. Good luck, somebody do something about it. Well, we decided, all right, well, that's just the first step. Now we're gonna see what we can actually design as a solution, since this is your priority and these are your lived experiences. And I'm talking stories from young people from many different demographics who just see that this is beyond a need. This isn't something that needs to happen tomorrow, there's something that needs to happen now. And that sense of urgency, as we went to the legislature, and we brought legislators to the event. not just to talk, but to listen.
Yeah.
You know, and to listen to the insights and the creativity and the passion of the young people around these, you know, these issues that are present in our communities and that are urgent. So what we did is we brought bipartisan legislators to the space. So both sides of the aisle were in the space because we knew that, hey, this is something that affects everybody, not just one group of people, not just one region, but the state and the nation. So with that lens, we went back to the legislature, not just with us asking, hey, what do you think we should do? We came with a solution and an agenda and says, hey, this is how we can help you help us.
And out of that beautiful cross-sector collaboration, you guys are able to implement with the Minnesota Department of Education the new health standard of curriculum where opioid health is being taught 6th through 12th grade. I think that is so important, especially when you recognize the uptick of kids last year, as I believe they were saying, where the Kia boys and so many other teens and youth were taking cars, doing drugs in said cars, joyriding, and then their friends were overdosing in the cars, and they were abandoning their friends in the vehicles to pass away because they didn't have the knowledge on what to do, how to handle an overdose, or what it looks like once you're having a reaction to these drugs, like you said. People aren't even realizing you're doing an opioid. You may know the street name, but you actually don't recognize the effects or even how to reverse something like that. That could potentially save your friend's life. And I believe knowledge is power, and the younger the better are the outcomes for them to be able to realize what they're looking at in real time and make some different choices.
So true.
Once they have the information.
Absolutely.
That's so true. And if you think about it, opioids, a lot of it are medicine that their parents take, or when you think about opioids, a lot of it is not necessarily just street drugs. They're things that folks take for pain, and then they start taking that, and they might not see anything wrong with it in terms of abusing. So it gets even more kind of, with some drugs, you know, you just know it's inherently bad. And you said something earlier about the challenges of homelessness and unstable housing. When you think about how it's already hard to learn in school, but learning on an empty stomach, learning when and doing your homework when you have no home. The name is homework, but you're doing your work in all these different environments. You know, a lot of our parents grew up in the crack epidemic, crack generation, and so, you know, one thing I appreciate about Khalique is kind of jokingly behind the scenes say, hey man, you're a hope dealer. You know, and I think it's so important for people to see someone who reflects their values and someone who they can relate to. And what we see is that young people and people who are closest to the challenges, when given the opportunity, they can provide some of those solutions. And that's what we saw. And we also saw that the legislators would partner and collaborate with that, again, during divided government, when it was hard to get anything passed, right? And so just seeing that what's possible lets these kids go back to their, whether it's rural Minnesota or some urban areas around our Twin Cities, and say, hey, you know, I did this thing. Or they could look at the newspaper and their pictures on there, right? It's not just a picture of Khalique or a picture of CSC board members or anything like that. It's their picture. I think that's what begins to change the equation for people. So that education is important. But one thing that my wife has always told me, and she said that nobody cares about what you know until they know that you care. And it's such a blessing to have that part of it, so that now when they're learning about it and they're having the education aspect, they care. It's not just, why are you reading this to me? It's, this is going to impact my life. And so that's, you get to see that transformation happen over just a year period of time. Like, you literally get to see in the fall, young people come together, and by spring, something comes out of it. Change oftentimes takes decades, but in a 1 year period of time, you see real tangible change. And I think that that's the magic of CSC. That's the magic of that cross-sector collaboration you talked about.
I think you are very much so right, Jeff. Now, for people that are coming to the launch on August 11th at St. Paul College, is there a cost or a registration associated for people to come hear about the work CSC has going on?
Yeah, well, as of right now, we have officially sold out. There's a waiting list, but we want to make sure the people who were there for the journey, you know, that we made space for those partners. And when I say like the journey, once again, I started in high school. So the community I've been through different programs, internships, and so on. Been the poster boy for so many things. But this is a moment where I'm utilizing my likeness, my image, my voice, that is for us, that is by us, you know, for a cause that, you know, ultimately helps the whole entire community. And you'll see that depicted, you know, in the actual space of who comes there, city officials, elected officials such as legislators, you know, departments, agencies, community partners, youth, families, and so on. If I would have just had to be open, I'm sure it would have been the whole community from all throughout the state that came. And I wish I could. Maybe we'll have it live so people can watch from there. But it's it'll be people that have seen me on this journey for quite some time. Back when my long hair was this small, so.
Well, I also want to encourage anyone to still sign up on the Eventbrite. We have a waiting list. You know, we're living in a time where everything is happening, so at times folks cancel. So on Sunday, we're going to go through our list and make sure everyone's still coming and kind of open up that waiting list. But also, the waiting list will help us to, if folks want to sign up, to know what's happening. So a lot of times, you know, one of the things before kind of becoming board chair is there was so many things going on that I just didn't know about. And as we begin to see all the things that are happening, also at times with the lack of funding, like, oh, the world should know more about this. So if you'd like to be more involved, you know, I'd invite you to sign up on the Eventbrite so that way we can have your information to share with you things moving forward. I think that would be really helpful.
We will make sure that the Eventbrite link runs in tandem with the episode so that people are able to stay connected to the work you guys are doing. But also, if someone does back out for whatever reason, hopefully they're able to be in the room and hear what is to come from CSC. Lastly, for people that want to stay connected to the work of CSC outside of the launch, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can go to catalystforsystemschange.org. We're also on social media as well under the same name. And to actually get involved, reach out, and they have a part to play. The community has a part to play. But, you know, if we all put in that 5%, you'd be surprised what we come out with. And the collective action that we have made, you know. And when people come to the event, what's so beautiful about it is because since the young people actually did the work, they get to speak on it themselves. So you'll see less of the adults talking and actually more of the young people speaking on what they accomplished, who they became. One of the highlighted stories is one of the young people, Maitreya Reader. She actually was published in the Star Tribune, wrote her own op-ed. She's like 17. Because they loved what she worked on, the opioid bill. She's one of the young change makers who helped lead that initiative. And just to see what opportunities are already coming her way by, you know, for her to do this before she even graduated high school and what opportunities are unfolding for her already, like that is the magic of it all.
That's beautiful.
So,
and also we're relationship based as well. So if you are on Instagram, you can follow Khalique at Life of Khalique. You also can connect on LinkedIn. That's the thing about being multifaceted. You can email or go on the website, but if you feel more comfortable reaching out via social media, via the official channels or Life of Khalique on Instagram, you could connect with Khalique Rogers on Facebook, and then also on LinkedIn, you could connect with Khalique. We want to make sure that everyone who can participate, who wants to participate, have the opportunity to do so. And we don't want a website to be the barrier to entry for anyone. So if you need to connect personally with Khalique, please make sure to do that.
I'm always excited for people to come and share web addresses or social media platforms or things of that nature, because I want them to be able to be reached in the ways in which they're comfortable. But also, we know from a community standpoint, everybody has their favorite something, right? So I often say, like, the elders, the grandparents, they're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, TikTok.
That's true.
Then you got your YouTubers, and you got your old-fashioned Googlers who are like, I'm typing in his name. What was it? You know? So I always excited for you all to share which platforms
Yeah.
you all want to be reached.
We want to say thank you for betting on us. Like, you are always betting on us. I remember our last conversation, just all the things you do for community. We really appreciate that. We really appreciate this platform. This has been my favorite interview in terms of the last time we talked, and it continues to be a space where we feel like we can bring our full self, and oftentimes
I feel like I'm at home.
So we just want to say thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining me today on this episode of Community Connections, but also making sure that we're always up to date on what you guys are working on, because I think it is a wonderful opportunity to champion people that are doing good work and to keep shining a light on really important topics that affect people that look like you and I and people that don't. So I'm humbled to always get the opportunity to make a connection. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for this episode of Community Connections. As always, I am Anna Orr. This has been Community Connections, airing on OROMIA11. I look forward to connecting again with you soon.